Stats. Welcome to the podcast you've been waiting for. Great perspective and exclusive interviews.
It's a hard job for those guys because it's happening fast.
The kind of Saints insight and fun commentary you won't get anywhere else.
We've got plenty of technology to speed things up.
It's time to kick off your Been There, Done That Saints podcast, where we hand it off to our host, Mike Nabors, and Super Bowl winning linebacker, Scott Shanle.
Proud of these guys.
I think last week I did something a little different that wasn't, like me. Well, I changed my shoes, so I'm superstitious. But
Teddy, got to bring the shoes to Chicago. Offense wasn't as good against the Jags as it was against the Bucs. Welcome to another Been There, Done That podcast, everybody. I am merely Mike Nabors with this terrible voice, but I'm going to bring in my partners, Scott Shanle and producer Justin Thomas. We're going to have Drew Brees one-on-one. Really good stuff about his progress, where he is, when he thinks he may return, his conversations with Sean Payton. But before I talk about the Chicago Bears and Drew Brees, let me bring in Mr. Shanle, who was the only one of the three of us who thought the Saints would lose in Jacksonville, which makes me the same as the New Orleans Saints. I'm 5-1. Shanle and Justin are 4-2. I had to bring that up off the top, my friend.
Hey, I bought into the mustache hype and the jorts hype, I think. And I didn't give the Saints defense enough credit. I tell you what, they're looking really, really tough. And that defense, they keep playing like that. It doesn't matter if Drew sits out a few more weeks. This team's going to be tough to beat.
Justin, you're even with Shanle right now, and we're almost at the halfway point of the season. This could be a dogfight between the three of us here.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised. I didn't realize how close I was. I thought for some reason I was a game behind, but still got plenty of season to go. Who knows? Someone may pull away.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this game in Chicago. I mean, first off, Shanle, you look at this stretch, we talked about it before the season, even before Brees got hurt. You had at the Rams. I mean, the Texans opener wasn't going to be easy. At the Rams, at Seattle, the Cowboys, the Bucs, whatever. And then it looked like once they beat the Cowboys, the Jaguars, as you mentioned, especially with that new rookie quarterback and that defense, they were going to be better. But lo and behold, without Drew Brees, the Saints are 4-0. I mean, it just shows how good this football team is in so many ways.
Absolutely. Who would have ever thought they would be sitting here, when Nine left that game in LA, everybody thought, oh man, here goes the season. And for this team to be where they are, you hit it exactly right, Mike. I think it speaks to the depth of this team, the outstanding job that the front office has done, drafting, signing free agents the last couple of years. And it's all culminated in having a dynamic team, an excellent team outside of the quarterback. We've always put this Saints team right there next to Drew Brees. It only goes as far as Drew goes. And now you're seeing just how good this team has been assembled in the past couple of years. And it's as good as anybody in the NFL.
We'll get to Drew Brees in just a second on his progress and some good anecdotes about, what he's been going through and conversations he's had inside the Saints complex over the last month. But, you're going to get Drew Brees back. I mean, how exciting is it for Saints fans knowing, they're not out of the woods yet by any means, but the defense is playing so well. I mean, special teams are elite, and this offense is just going to get better. I mean, it's a real exciting time right now for the Saints.
Well, I think you feel good about it. Not only are you getting Drew back, you feel good about it because you were able to see this team win in other ways, not having to have Drew throw you to victory or manage the game and be the reason you're winning. And I think a bigger reason for me looking at it is you've made it through the toughest part of the schedule. I think the Bears defense is going to be probably the best defense they've faced this year. Going on the road is going to be tough. But after that, does anybody on the back half of this schedule scare you? Like, you have all your tough games at home. San Francisco, Indy's a pretty good team. You're going to dive into the NFC South, but the NFC South doesn't look that great. Does Kyle Allen really scare you that much when you're talking about the NFC South division? So I think that the hard part of the schedule has already been through, and you're going to get a Hall of Fame quarterback back. So I think it's all been pretty good so far.
I agree with you. The Niners are starting to scare me a little bit, Scott. A little bit.
The reason I like that game, it's at home. It's at the Superdome. You're going to have Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to play, earn his money during that week. But San Francisco, and he's making a lot of it, trust me.
Yes.
But Kyle Shanahan is a heck of a coach. John Lynch
Yeah.
is a heck of a front office guy. They've assembled a great team. The only part of that team that really scares me is their front four, because their defensive line is outstanding.
I'm trying to find a weakness with the Saints. It's really hard right now. I would say they need, obviously, more depth at wide receiver. I wonder if they're going to pick up anybody at wide receiver down the stretch.
I could see the Saints making some type of move before the trade deadline. I don't know if they're going to give up 2 first-round pick type deals like the Rams did for Jalen Ramsey. I don't think they're that type of player away. Maybe it's just going to be for depth, or they look at a team that they have to compete with going down the stretch. But I agree. It's hard to find big-time weaknesses on this team. When I look at the defense, the only thing I can say is this defense hasn't faced and really isn't going to face an outstanding quarterback from here on out with an outstanding tight end. You know, it used to be you faced Gateses and Gonzalez's; those guys would tear up defenses. I don't see those type of players on the matchups coming up. Besides maybe Greg Olsen with Carolina.
Yeah, that's an interesting scenario. I mean, you look at the schedule before the year, you thought you were going to have Andrew Luck on Monday Night Football against the Indianapolis Colts. And, Jacoby Brissett's done a serviceable job there, but he's not Andrew Luck. So, yeah, a lot of positives for the Saints moving forward. Well, before we get to Brees, let's talk about this game against the Chicago Bears. Ryan Pace is a guy that you're very familiar with, Scott. But, general manager of the Chicago Bears and used to be in the front office, working closely with Mickey Loomis. How much is he kicking himself with Trubisky? I mean, deep down, he's not going to admit that, but I mean, they could have had Mahomes, they could have had Deshaun Watson, and Trubisky's banged up. I mean, he was, a decent quarterback last year, but boy, that's got to be tough watching those other young quarterbacks in that same draft class thrive.
Absolutely. And it's not only just one, Mike, you got 2 guys that you could have taken and been much better off than the guy you took and you traded up to get. And everybody was shocked at the time, like, this Trubisky guy played 1 year at North Carolina, never set the world on fire, and there you had the Bears investing everything in him. And I like the fact that the Bears didn't panic with Ryan. Ryan Pace is an outstanding front office guy, and he may have messed up the pick at GM, but hindsight's always 20/20. It'd be interesting to sit down with Ryan and say, what did you see in Trubisky that just separated him from the rest of the class? It'd be interesting to get that insight from him.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Daniel's the guy you played with on your Super Bowl team, and he's been filling in and got a big victory for him. But, this is a team that's always, had a problem getting a quarterback. I mean, Jim McMahon's probably the biggest quarterback they ever had. And he really wasn't great for a long, long time. It's amazing to me how the Bears have always kind of struggled in that regard. Well, they've never struggled on defense. This looks like it's going to be a defensive matchup on paper. I mean, you have 2 top 10 defenses, 2 defenses that are opportunistic, 2 defenses that have a lot of sacks. I mean, you would think right now that this is going to be a defensive game, don't you, heading in?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't know what the over-under is going to be. It might be set at 20 points because this thing is going to be a slugfest. Yeah. Chase is a good quarterback, but he's a good backup quarterback, and that's not to take any knocks at him. I just haven't seen from him as a starting quarterback a guy who's going to be able to take this offense to the level it's going to need to be against this Saints defense. This Saints defense, I don't care where they're ranked, total yardage-wise, they're a top 5 defense in the NFL just based on looking at them every time they step out on the field. And then this offense for Chicago, they get a lot of yards through gimmicky kind of flea flicker, double reverse pass type plays. That's how they move the ball. They can't do it consistently. I don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Saints team. But on the flip side of it, going into Chicago, playing against Khalil Mack and Floyd, and they lost Akeem Hicks, which is a huge loss for him. It's going to be tough sledding, I think, for this Saints offense. And we haven't even mentioned that Alvin Kamara is banged up.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I thought, Latavius Murray did a nice job against the Jaguars. To me, running back position is always about rhythm. I mean, you didn't see Mark Ingram really come into his own until he became kind of that bell cow back for the Saints, where he didn't have to split carries with Pierre and Sproles and those guys. I'll be interested to see if Kamara, continues to sit out, if Latavius Murray can thrive getting more of a rhythm here.
Well, yeah, and what was great is we were able to hear from Latavius Murray for really the first time after he had a role this year in a game, and doesn't sound frustrated with his role. Doesn't sound like he was down on himself. He was just waiting for his opportunity and continued to prepare for his opportunity. And it's just another one of those guys that they brought into the locker room that's a selfless guy, just waiting for his chance. And I thought he looked really good. I mean, he had an explosiveness to him, big running back, and he definitely took advantage of his carries. And I think those carries are going to be doubled, maybe tripled this week with the way the injury situation is looking with 41. We'll have to see come game day.
You know what I really like? And we've been talking about this, but we've seen it the last 2 weeks, is Jared Cook more and more becoming a part of the offense, especially in the red zone. And I think he's the perfect guy to help Bridgewater and then really benefit when Brees gets back.
Yeah, Jared's going to be a huge part of it. I talked about earlier. I haven't seen a tight end talented enough to attack the Saints defense. I'm kind of still worried maybe that's one of the weaker parts of the defense. Jared Cook is that guy for the Saints who can do that to the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have a talented defense. They run around well. They're long and athletic. But you get Jared Cook going to the middle of that field, working tight ends. Now it opens up everything on the outside for Michael Thomas, and they have nobody who can cover him. So I think definitely getting Jared Cook going is a huge part of this game plan this week.
Let's talk about an underrated guy in this offense before we get to Drew Brees, because he's going to be working with Drew Brees quite a bit, is rookie center Eric McCoy. Some great stats by Pro Football Focus and beyond, really. Scott, he hasn't allowed a sack all year. He hasn't allowed a quarterback hit. He's the only center to rank in the top 5 for both pass blocking and run blocking. The Saints didn't have a first rounder this year, and they continue to do well and hit on these picks. It's crazy.
The reason the Saints are where they are is because of the drafts they've had the last 2 to 3 years. And it's hard to find a bunch of misses. And it's just another tremendous job of them scouting and bringing in the right type of guys into that locker room. And when you look at Eric McCoy, we all had the question in the offseason, who are the Saints going to miss more? Is it going to be Mark Ingram or is it going to be Max Unger? A lot of people started saying it was going to be Max Unger just because of what he did for this offense in the middle of the line. So this rookie coming in playing a major position that nobody really gives credit to unless they have a bad snap, he's been one of the better centers in the league, and it's phenomenal how much contribution this Saints team has gotten from rookies the past couple of years.
It really is. It's amazing. I mean, Max Unger, to me, I thought that would be a bigger deal, even though I thought Mark Ingram would be a huge deal in that locker room, and it seems like everything is intact in terms of those terms. But, yeah, it's amazing how this team is drafted, how they've hit on free agents like Demario Davis even. I mean, guys like that are vital to the success of a football team.
Yeah, Demario Davis, just you talk about him individually. I think you can make the argument after Drew Brees, he's probably been probably the best free agent signing since Sean Payton's been there in 2006. Wow. He's been a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, and maybe I'm overreacting a little bit, but I know that they've been trying to look for that linebacker since Jonathan Vilma left to be the captain of their defense, to be the voice, to be their Drew Brees on that side of the ball, and he's given them that. And the way he's playing in space, coverage, he blitzes well. He's a tackling machine, always has been. I think that move for him was as beneficial for his career as the Saints getting him and benefiting their team. So it's been a tremendous signing, and he's been a huge asset to that team.
Yeah, that's quite a statement, but it's hard for me to disagree with that. Not only is his play, but you touched on it, kind of taking over for the pregame chant when Brees was out. I love all the intangibles he brings. He to me, it symbolized kind of what you guys were about. That he would have fit in perfectly on that Super Bowl team on that defense. That's what you guys were about.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch guys. I don't know a lot of the guys personally with the roster changing over, but just doing the analyst work with Cox Sports Television, and Mike, you know this, you get a chance to talk to these guys after the game and just watch them in the interviews. You can tell they're down-to-earth guys, good, level-headed guys. They're gentlemen, and those are the type of guys we had in the locker room, and it makes a huge difference. People don't think it does, but when you have good guys in the locker room, you're able to fight through adversity. You're able to have selflessness in tough situations. I've been in locker rooms where all guys care about are their stats, and you don't win. So those type of guys in the locker room, I think, are another reason, besides being physically gifted, why the Saints have had the success they had the last couple of years.
No doubt about it. Well, a big reason for the success is obviously number 9, Drew Brees, and we have an exclusive chat with him after each and every game. It's interesting that, and he's not talking to anybody else. He talks to Zach Streif at WWL, and he talks to me, and that's it until he gets back to playing again. And that's the big question. When will Drew Brees come back? Some are circling next week against the Arizona Cardinals. Some say be smart and rest after the bye week, especially with the Saints' recent success. I asked Drew Brees about his progress after the game in Jacksonville.
Are you where you want to be? Are you ahead, or do you have a feel for that?
I'm still ahead. My expectations are maybe a bit aggressive. So there's certainly been those days, where you didn't quite make it as far as you had expected in your mind, in regards to progress. And then I'm reminded by those around me that, man, this is still really, really good for all things considered. And so I'm just trying to stay very positive.
Okay, let's read between the lines, Shanle, because we can do that on podcasts. And boy, I miss my voice sounding that good, but hopefully we'll get back there by Sunday. Reading between the lines with Drew Brees there, my expectations have been aggressive. That's code to me for, man, I want to play against Arizona. But no, Drew, you're going to wait till after the bye week.
I hope he waits till after the bye week. This team has been playing so well, and they can beat Arizona at home, and now Drew gets another week of rest on that thumb. And I know even if it feels good, he's going to want to play, but you have to make that thing, make sure it's at 100%. No setbacks. And like I said, Arizona, the way this team's been playing, Arizona is not going to be the reason that Drew has to come back. His competitive nature, his itch is going to be the reason he wants to come back. But I also think that he's selfless enough to say, I'm not 100%. I don't want to hurt this team. And Teddy, can you go out there for one more week and get us this win before I come back? So I think he'll look at it from that perspective. But I'm surprised he's been able to stand there the way he has, because it's a lot of football he's missed that he's not used to or he's not accustomed to.
Okay, I feel like Sean Payton would hate me saying this, but if the Saints even lose the next 2 games, they're going to be 5-3 with Brees back after a bye if he waits. I mean, that's a good situation, and I don't think they'll be 5-3. I think they'll be better than that. I mean, this team is in an unbelievable position right now. Speaking of Brees, look, I have 2 more tracks I want to get to. The progress with Drew, he released a video, but a lot of people thought that was a regulation football. It was a Nerf football, or a facsimile of that. He threw with the real NFL football last week, and he talked about, making progress on that front, throwing a football, and how that felt.
I feel good doing that, but, there's more to it, Don't just stand still and throw a ball and say I'm ready to go. There's a lot more that goes into it. So just taking it one step at a time and see where we are.
Okay, my translation of that is Brees cannot wait to get back. He releases the video on social media. Shh, don't tell anybody. He's just chomping at the bit, and that's why he's so good. But I think he also recognizes that there are more steps to be taken for him to get back to where he wants to be.
Yeah, I think the one thing as a quarterback with that injury, it's one thing to go out on air, throw the ball, go through your rhythm, go through your steps, and feel pretty good. The next stage, no different than any other injury, whether it's a shoulder or a knee or an ankle, you have to mentally get over the hump of knowing there's a lot of large, athletic, fast, physical grown men going to be flying around me. And now can I play it the same way? And I know you go through that rehab process, everything feels good. Then you go back out there and the reality sets in that, okay, now I have to get over this mental hump of not short arming a throw so that I don't hit my thumb again. Or, with the hamstring, not opening up so I don't re-injure it again the way I did the last time. So there's a huge mental hurdle that you're going to have to get over with the injury, no matter how it feels through the rehab process.
Yeah, I think his tone has been very realistic. It's been very candid in a lot of ways in these interviews that we've done. And I feel like, with Brees, we're looking at Arizona next week. We're looking at, the bye week. Is there a chance it's later than that? What do you think?
You mean later than the bye week?
Yeah, later than the bye week.
Outside of any setback, I would say no. I think he'll be back after the bye week and ready for the NFC South slate that ensues in the schedule. If anything, setback-wise, bumps it in practice when he comes back that week, I think he'll be back and ready to take on the NFC South in November.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, our last track with Drew Brees. He had all those comments before this one, and I was kind of interpreting that first one as I want to come back, but maybe people in the building are telling me, I shouldn't rush it, and they're kind of tempering me a little bit. I asked him about his conversations with Sean Payton during this whole process, and here's what he had to say.
From the very beginning with Sean, it's, hey, do what you got to do to, get ready to play your best, and so I think he's just waiting for me to tell him when that is, or just, just trusting the process here. There's a lot of people involved in this, right? It's physical therapists, and it's all those people that are part of my team, that are in my corner, right, that are, helping to get me to where I need to be. And then it's also, my feeling, right? Like either I have it or I don't yet, and it's coming, and it's, man, I did things today I couldn't do 2 days ago. That happens every 2 days, seriously. So it's getting better.
Dundad Nation, you're not going to get that kind of insight from Drew Brees anywhere else. Just saying. Scott Shanle, you've been in that building. You know the dynamics between the medical staff, between Sean Payton, between how you feel as a player. How do you feel hearing Drew talk that way? I'm sure you've seen that from not only yourself, but your teammates. It's a different process for different people, but it's definitely a collective effort.
Yeah, there's a lot of people behind the scenes, and the frustrating part about being hurt is, yeah, it hurts physically, but it's more mental. It's harder to get over it mentally, especially when you're a competitor. You want to be out there and accountable. You want to be there for your teammates. You want to be there for your coaches, the fans. So mentally, I think getting hurt, that's the toughest part. You show up at the training room at 5:30 a.m., you're getting treatment, then you're going to meetings, and then you're trying to get treatment while the guys are at practice. You go out to practice and watch the rest. You're staying afterwards to get treatment. Tons of treatment, and that's the mental part that is tough to get over. Every guy who goes through an injury that loves to compete will be ready and ambitious to come back and play, but there's another level once you get back, like I said before. Mentally, it takes a week or two to get back into that rhythm that you had until you can prove to yourself, hey, I can do this, and I am 100%, and I'm 100% ready to play actual football.
We can get into this in a different podcast, maybe in the off season, but I've always been intrigued the dynamic between Payton and Brees because A, they've been together so long, and B, obviously their chemistry is off the charts and how they've helped each other in terms of their careers. But when you're a defensive player, you tend to gravitate toward when you play Joe Vitt, your position coach or your defensive coordinator. Not only is Sean Payton the head coach, but he and Brees have this special relationship during this process. How often do you think they really talk and about the injury, about what steps are going to have to be taken for next week or the bye week? I mean, how do you think that dynamic works?
Well, I definitely think they stay in touch. I think Coach Payton views Drew as almost a player's coach, as a player's coach, really, where he is an extension of him, sees a lot of the same things his way. And I'm going to give Coach Payton credit in this regard. I think he goes to Drew and talks to him about the game plan, even though Drew's not playing, and says, hey, what is your perspective on this? Do you think we're doing this the right way? Should we do this for Teddy? He trusts Drew that much. And once coaches start to have that relationship with the player, it's a very powerful thing. So I definitely think they're in communication because they both respect each other's opinions.
And before we get to our favorite segment at the end, plus our predictions, one more follow-up on that. They're very much alike in a lot of ways in terms of their chemistry, in terms of being smart, being innovative. But I think Brees and Payton are different in a lot of ways too, don't you think?
Yeah, I definitely think there's different differences in their personalities. But the one thing that I know binds them, and probably why they connected so fast, is they are both fiercely competitive, and that bonds them over whatever their differences are with seeing the game plan differently or seeing different ways to attack a team week in and week out. They're both fiercely competitive, and at the end of the day, they know they're both trying to win equally as bad.
One thing I've noticed covering both of them for so long, Peyton loves kind of poking the bear and pulling pranks on him too. I remember, you guys had the Chevron tags in training camp, and he replaced that with Rogaine on Breezes.
Oh, yeah.
And he loves kind of poking the bear a little bit, doesn't he?
Well, what's funny about that is Drew's kind of the untouchable when it comes to everybody else in the building, and Sean. I think it's Sean's way of saying, hey, you may be big dog on campus with everybody. You may be Mr. First Ballot Hall of Famer. But let's not forget who's calling the plays here.
Exactly. All right, Justin. My voice is about done, but we can't forget about our favorite. I won't say most favorite. That would be grammatically incorrect. Our favorite part of the show. Here we go. God, just spit it out already. More likely, 3 hypotheticals. We like to have fun. Sometimes we go outside the lines. Sometimes we stay inside the lines. We're going to bring back our producer, Justin Thomas, our MVP. We couldn't do this without him. I'm going to say the first more likely, even with Drew Brees playing, more likely for the first time in the Sean Payton era, can we say this team is better defensively than offensively?
You want me? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think so. This is definitely the most impressed I can remember the defense being under the Sean Payton era. I know 2009, the Super Bowl year, the defense statistically wasn't the best, but they were great at turnovers. I think number 1 in the league in turnovers, which helped tremendously. But it just seems like everyone on this team defensively is playing their best. I really can't see a weakness in any position. And with how much the offense is struggling to move the ball, really, there's been 2 huge games that the defense, actually 3 with Seattle, that the defense has helped the Saints and kept them in the game, allowed them to win. So I definitely think this is probably the best defense under Sean Payton.
Great points. Shanle, I'll give you credit. Before the season, you talked about how the defense could be better than the offense. You've been saying that for a while.
Well, I appreciate that because I was actually going to have to pat my own back and bring that up. I was going to have to go look for some interviews I did just to prove that I said that. Yeah. So I appreciate that. No, I think
I listen.
The defense is definitely the strength of this team right now. It's easy to say that because Drew's hurt, but even if Drew was there, I felt like going into this season, the youth this team had on defense, when I looked at every position, it was hard for me to find a weakness. And they are playing up to that. And that's why I hate total defense. I hate these stats because it doesn't say that. Yeah. There's a lot of garbage yards that teams get at the end.
Yep.
But do they pass the eye test? And when you turn them on, offenses struggle moving the ball on them in the run game and in the pass game. And they are legit one of the best defenses in the league. And I think they are the strength of this team this year.
Shanle, you said it. I'm going to back you up. I think even with number 9 in there, this defense has really set the tone for this football team in a lot of ways. But I'll also throw in special teams too, man. Special teams, if Will Lutz isn't the kicker that he is, the Saints may have lost the Cowboys game. They definitely would have lost the game in the season opener against the Houston Texans. So to me, my quote of the year so far is Thomas Morstead, what he said in Seattle, and it really holds true in the Jacksonville game. I don't play in many games where when I play a lot, we win. And that was really true in Seattle and Jacksonville, Shanle.
Yeah, and we made fun of Thomas last year because there were times he was pretend sleeping in his locker after the game because he didn't even get to play. Yeah. And this year, he would prefer not to play because that means, hey, you're winning a lot of games, and he's still one of the best punters in the NFL. Even when he gets on the field. And he does what he does, and he flips the field. And a lot of people don't give enough credit to hidden yardage. But there's a lot of hidden yardage that takes effect in football games with both teams being competitively equal. And punters and guys who kick off, those things can swing games just with the hidden yardage.
Exactly. All right, more likely number 2. We let Justin go first so he won't cheat off Shanley's paper. Even though you're pretty good, Justin.
I was going to say, give me some credit. I don't need much help.
You don't need that help. All right. Okay. We talked about Ryan Pace, but in terms of guys who play, which former Saint who went to Chicago is the best? Which Bear of all the former Saints is the best Bear? Okay. I'm not going to include Mike Ditka because that wouldn't be fair. First of all, he was awful in New Orleans, so we'll take him off the board. But I have Akeem Hicks. I have Chase Daniel. And many people forget Tracy Porter played for the Chicago Bears and had 4 interceptions. So which former Saint has been the best Bear? Akeem Hicks, Chase Daniel, or Tracy Porter?
I think it's obvious that it's Akeem Hicks. Chase,
I tried to kind of dress that up, didn't I?
Chase Daniel is a backup. I mean, yeah, he won a game last week, but it's not like he's having even an opportunity to show much. Tracy Porter, once he left New Orleans, I mean, he really didn't do much, at least that I can remember.
Yeah.
Akeem Hicks has shown that he is an outstanding player. I kind of wish we could have held on to him. Obviously, that didn't work out, other reasons, but Akeem Hicks has fit in well with that defense. He's playing great. Like I said, I think it's obvious that it's him.
You know, I should have looked this up, Shanle, before I get your answer, but I'm wondering, of those three finalists that I have, Chase Daniel may have made the most money.
Oh, definitely.
Possibly, but there's an obvious choice on this list, Mike, but I think you need to take Chase Daniel off this list or Tracy Porter and throw Jermon Bushrod on there.
Ooh,
that's
a good
yeah. Bush had a good career in Chicago. I know he ended up hurting his back up there, but they had some good years while he was up there. Aaron Cromer was the offensive line coach, offensive coordinator when he went there. But you know, even though it could be a tie. Since I brought Bushrod up, I got to stick with him. But Akeem Hicks, I'll tell you what, I was not happy when the Saints traded him for a third or fourth spot tight end. I mean, they gave him away. And I'm going to tell you, when they drafted him, I can remember us looking at him, the linebackers. We'd sit in our linebacker room, and we said to Jovit, and I remember talking to Vilma about, who is this guy? He's like a big grizzly bear, light on his feet, so athletic. This guy's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler. And they traded him away and got nothing in return. And now he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He's going to be out this week. They put him on IR, but could you imagine the Saints defense with Akeem Hicks and Sheldon Rankins in the middle?
Oh my God! Ooh. Akeem Hicks screams 7 and 9 Greenbrier years, doesn't he?
Yes. It's hard to believe that he's out of the building. I think there was a difference in philosophy as far as what he wanted to play in the old 3-4 defense. They viewed him as a defensive end. He wanted to play defensive tackle, and you're never going to win that battle. You just play what they tell you to play and pick up your check.
Okay, here's my attempt at double dipping. If you watch our Cox Sports TV Saints Game Day pregame show, we do more likely, and I'm going to change it now. So Victor Howell, if you've listened this far into our podcast, you will not only get the answers to the test, but you may have a sneak preview that Shanle changed the more likely. Now I'm going to have to add Bushrod and take Chase Daniel. I never really felt comfortable with those three choices, but now I feel much more comfortable for our Sunday show. So if you're listening, thanks for listening to our podcast. Please check out our pregame show on Cox Sports Television. Okay, last more likely. Man, when you think of Chicago, you think a lot of things. But I really think of pizza. More likely, Justin, do you like the thick crust or the thin crust pizza?
I love the thick crust. I love a deep dish pizza. I don't know why. Maybe there's more to chew on. It's gooier. I'll eat a thin crust if someone gives it to me, but I'll take the chewy over the crunchy any day.
My daughter, I got her pizza last night for dinner, my daughter's, and I didn't eat any of it, because I'm going to eat a ton this weekend when I go up there. I'm just kind of saving. I'm saving it, man. It's like a salary cap. I'm portioning it for the weekend. Shanle, thin or thick crust pizza?
I used to be strictly thick crust when I was younger, college, high school. I remember that's really the only piece I liked. And then the last few years, I don't know, maybe as I'm getting older, metabolism slowing down, trying to cut some calories. But no, my wife and the kids really like thin crust, so I'm stuck eating that, and I've gotten used to eating that.
My answer is you can't lose, because I love pizza, and I'll eat, thin, thick, whatever. I'm going to go all the above, and maybe I should throw that in. So, Victor, if you're listening to our podcast, I just gave you all the answers to the test. Shanle, you have the answers, so we'll just moving forward here. Okay, we're going to have predictions. I gave Shanle credit after I kind of razzed him about picking the Jags. I gave him credit for predicting the defense will be better than the offense this year. But now the predictions, I'm 5-1, Justin's 4-2, Shanley's 4-2. What's going to happen in Chicago, Justin Thomas? Give me a score and a team here.
Score and a team. Well, I'm probably going to lose some points with Saints fans, but I'm going to gain some points with my father-in-law, who grew up in Chicago as a Bears fan.
Kiss up.
Yeah, no. I just, even from early before Bridgewater showed that he can win and the Saints to show that they're a really good team, there's some about this game I just don't like. I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game, 17-13, and I think the difference is the Bears are going to score on defense. That's going to be the determining factor for their win. And I think it's going to be the first loss for Teddy Bridgewater.
Well, 17-13 is such a Bridgewater final score.
It is. I think that's
really
the other
is.
thing too. I mean, his Bucs game is the outlier, so I don't see the offense playing as well against the Bears defense, which will be probably the best defense they've played thus far.
I say this fictitiously, but I'm wondering if I could throw for 400 yards against that Bucs defense. But we will move along here. Scott Shanle, what is your prediction in this game?
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one because of their defense, but not having Akeem Hicks in the middle, it's a huge loss for the Bears defense because now if I'm the Saints offense, I don't have to drop back a ton to throw the ball or feel like I have to run the ball outside, which you're not going to do very well anyway against Khalil Mack and Floyd. Now you can start to pound the ball away at the middle a little bit, which will open up some of the play action, and that'll get Cook and Thomas involved. I think Akeem Hicks being out, the fact that the Bears offense, Chase Daniel has to go against this Saints defense, I like the Saints to win it. I do agree with Justin. I can see the Bears defense scoring a touchdown and making it a game and making it tough on the Saints offense. I just don't see Chase Daniel moving their offense enough against this Saints defense. So I like the battle of defenses goes to the Saints in a 14-10 type game.
Wow, 14-10. And this
another low one.
In this day and age of the NFL, that's unbelievable. Well, Teddy Bridgewater is going to bring his shoes to Chicago, as we talked about. I think Bridgewater is going to, Bridgewater, boy, he could have hit Michael Thomas. They could have kind of pulled away from the Jags. The thing I love about Teddy Bridgewater, though, he's not going to make that big mistake. We may not have loved his stats out of these 4 games. We may not have loved the fact that he didn't have a touchdown against the Cowboys or score any points besides field goals. But I somehow think Jared Cook and Latavius Murray are going to step up more and more in this week. And I think the Saints win this game. And I think they win it a little bit higher than you guys. I think they're going to win it 24-21. And I think Will Lutz – are you rolling on this, Justin?
Yeah, I am.
Will Lutz is going to kick a game-winning 42-yard field goal.
Wow.
And win it for the New Orleans Saints. How about that?
I'll take the win, but I think they're going to lose.
42-yarder. I'm writing that down. So if that happens, that will be our open next week. Okay? Just saying.
All right. So if the Saints win, y'all will be better record than me.
Well, if the Saints win, Shanle will still be a game behind me. Just saying.
Well.
Because they'll be 6-1 and he'll be 5-2. Because he's 4-2 now.
Yeah, but I will be 4-3 is what I'm saying.
You'll be in trouble.
What's interesting is going down the stretch here, I feel like we're going to be picking the Saints a lot to win with the rest of the schedule. Not a whole lot of toss-up games.
Justin may have to go all off the board and pick the Dirty Birds for a week to catch up.
Oh, no, that will never happen.
How bad are they, by the way, Shanle? Oh. My goodness.
Bad. I watched them play Arizona last week. They dug themselves a hole. They just look soft and uninspired. And I don't know how much longer Dan Quinn has in him. And I made that comment on Twitter, and all the Saints fans came out right away and said, sign him to an extension. Don't go, Dan. So, hopefully they don't turn it around before the Saints get to him.
Anytime I could get Shanle to go off on the Falcons, I may use that as the parting shot for every podcast moving forward, because that's just a good way to end it. Well, listen, Justin, what's our handle on Twitter again?
@Dundat Podcast.
I love when you say it, because it sounds better than me, because I just can't say it, and I really sound bad right now anyway. We're on all the platforms. We're on iTunes. We're on Podbean. We're on Stitcher. We're on Spotify. We're on Google. Please subscribe. Please leave comments on things you may want from us in the future in terms of questions or comments or just topics. We had fun kind of delving into Brees and Payton. We could talk about that for an hour, but we'll save that for another podcast. But we'll see what the Who-Dats do in the head to Chicago. It would be amazing going 5-0 without Drew Brees. We'll hear from Drew Brees again next week, and we'll recap the game and look ahead to the game before the bye against the Arizona Cardinals. For our producer, Justin Thomas, for my partner, Scott Shanle, until next week, thanks for listening, everybody.